Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma, where healing and mamahood intersect. I'm Emily, your host. Join us as we discover practical strategies to nurture ourselves with kindness and understanding. Stay tuned for insights and inspiration to support you on your path of healing and growth. Let's dive in together. This is Mamahood After Trauma. Hello, Mama, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am so excited that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen. Today, I am joined by Amanda. Welcome.
Hi. It's good to be here. Good to be with you.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Amanda is a trauma-informed doctor of physiotherapy.
Mm-hmm. Depending on
How
where you're
did
from,
how
physiotherapy, physical therapist,
Yeah. So
all of it.
how did you become, what road led to becoming a trauma-informed physiotherapist, physical therapist?
Yeah. That is how I'm traditionally trained as a physical therapist. I have been a physical therapist since 2011. I've worked mainly in the acute care, which means hospital setting. And I found that whether I was with adults
Mhm.
in really urban settings, or I was in home health
Mhm.
in and around my community, or I was in a pediatric oncology hospital. It was never just about their current
Mhm.
illness, their current impairment. It was so much more than that.
Mhm.
And so, this notion of trauma informed has kind of come more online in the last 5 to 10 years, because we didn't get any sort of trauma training or even awareness training in physical therapy school. And so for me, this was really born out of an intuitive curiosity of like, why are people behaving the way that they are?
Mhm.
Um, and that got me thinking about my own journey.
Mhm.
And so this is really morphed into, yes, I'm a physical therapist and I'm trauma informed in that lens, that clinical lens, but also serving moms now as a trauma informed inner child and somatic reparenting coach. Like, it, so much of whether you are in the hospital or in the outpatient setting or at home receiving traditional medical care, or you're just living your life, so many parallels have occurred that I'm just
Mhm.
like, this is something that everyone should be um, aware of, exposed to, and have a little bit of more appreciation of, because it's not just you're talking to this random being. It's a being that has experienced a lot throughout their life, whether they're 2 or they're 22 or they're 82. So
Yeah. So how has your knowledge that you gathered from your time in the physical therapy space poured into your work as a coach?
yeah. And this is something that was not the way in which I feel like most people would imagine I'd answer this question. But I noticed that in the worst of the worst situations, whether I was in an intensive care unit in the adult hospital, or I was treating really critically ill children, I had this very much named by my colleagues and my partner, this superpower of disconnecting, of compartmentalizing, of doing the job and getting in and out.
Mhm.
And that was really great because for a lot of people, they can't be in those situations because it's too much on their emotional body and their nervous system. And for me, it was like, the sicker the better. Like, just come at me. Like, I doesn't bother me. And there was a point again of intuitive curiosity of like, is there something that I'm missing with this gift? And so
Mhm.
through COVID and through, again, a lot of my own personal journey outside of work and my career, I started to add things up where I was like, there is a lot that I'm missing. And there's a lot that's a byproduct of my compartmentalizing and not feeling and not allowing myself to experience things on a deeper level. And so to answer your question, I feel like I've had the capacity grow for my ability to hold space
Mm-hmm.
for these families, for patients. It's not just, we're going to get up out of bed, I'm going to teach you these things. It's now I can be with you in this experience,
Mm-hmm.
not take on your experience, not merge with your experience, but like I can be with you in it. So you can feel the physical support, but also the emotional and energetic support. And I feel like for the people that I've come in contact with that I care for, it's made all the difference. And I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
people open up and soften and trust more. And so for me, that translated to, again, my career life, but it also started to very much translate into my personal life with my kids and with my partner and with my friends and with family. And so it's been this beautiful like intersectionality in so many different ways, um, that like the threads that have been formed and then brought together have just been
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, got it, got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you dive into that a little bit more? How your ability to be with someone
Mhm.
and offer that support has crossed over and impacted your personal relationships.
Yeah. Um, and maybe surprisingly, again, I found it easier to be with those people energetically at work first
Mm-hmm.
before at home, because those people are who hit straight into your heart space. They're the people that can give you one look and it feels like you're breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are the ones that can look at you and say like, you know, why are you doing that? That hurts my feelings. And so
Mm-hmm.
for that, there's a whole other level of growth and capacity that's needed apart from just really slowing down and being with someone that is your patient in a hospital, or that you're seeing in their own home setting. And so I feel like that was the gift of that, is that I got to meet myself in these outer edges first with patients. Um, and then I got to continue my journey to let in what was then deemed safe, for those
Mm-hmm.
closest to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I I think your story is a lot of people experience that where they've they've experienced something, trauma or whatever,
Hmm.
that that makes it hard for them to let people in
Hmm.
on a deep level.
Yeah.
Um, but it's easy for them to go to work and do the thing that they need to do to make the money because it's less personal.
Hmm.
It's very transactional,
Hmm.
and there's very little feeling that is
Hmm.
involved. But when you're able to kind of break down the wall that was
Hmm.
put up, I mean, it's not an overnight thing. It takes a long time.
Right.
Um, your relationships kind of blossom.
Yeah, not kind of, they do.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they explode,
They
you know?
explode.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the better, it's something to where, and I said this, I shared this on another podcast, is that owning where you're at and what you're feeling and what feels safe in your system and what's not is a really vulnerable thing to do,
Oh,
because it
hugely.
allows people to see you in a way that they do have the choice to manipulate and, impact in a negative way. That's the story that we've created, that that's more likely to happen. And then in another vein, we also get to practice people showing up for us in a completely new way, in a new, um, capacity that like we haven't experienced before. So we believe is not possible. Um, and yeah, so it started initially with patients is just like lingering in the room.
Mm,
Is there anything else that you need? Anything else coming up for you? And just holding the space,
mm-hmm.
because people can feel, you know, that age old, like, let me know if you need anything. People can feel the difference in like the truth and the energy behind that
Mhm.
backs up the words that you're saying. And so that was the first inklings of like flexing that muscle. And then it got to be at home to translate into, well, tell me more about why you feel that way.
Mm.
Knowing that you can then separate yourself, that's the gift of the compartmentalizing, is that you then in those tough conversations get to separate. This isn't about me always. It's
Mhm.
about their experience and my ability to hold people in it and not make it about me always.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Mm.
We interrupt this amazing conversation for a word from our sponsor. Are you tired of feeling like you're on an emotional roller coaster in mamahood? Ready to break free from the fear and frustration that's holding you back? Introducing Mama Untriggered private podcast series, a transformative 5-episode journey to help you calm your nervous system and reclaim your strength in mamahood. In each episode, we'll guide you through practical, actionable steps to understand your triggers, build your trigger toolbox, and harness the power of community for support. Say goodbye to those moments of overwhelm and hello to more peaceful, empowered you. You didn't become a mama to spend your day on edge. It's time to take control of your emotional well-being and create a positive, joyful experience for you and your littles. Ready to break free from the emotional roller coaster? Subscribe now to the Mama Untriggered private podcast series and start your journey to a calmer, happier mamahood today.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is huge and something that many trauma survivors struggle with.
Oh, absolutely. Because you were either experience something to where someone in a manipulative way, in a negative way, in a
Mm-hmm.
very traumatic way made it all about them.
Mm-hmm.
You had to create it to be all about you to survive, to
Mm-hmm.
persevere, to do the thing. That's what I find with a lot of moms that I work with, is that they have this overwhelming shame around their selfishness, and they haven't accepted or realized that it's something that you learned to either recreate, because that's the only model that you have, or you learned it
Mm-hmm.
out of a way of surviving. And either are okay. Now with
Yeah.
that awareness, you get to flip the script on, is it safe to take a step back and let somebody else be in the light?
Yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes even like with going through a healing journey, you still have some relationships where it's all about them all the time.
Woo! Yes, it is. It absolutely is. And that's when we just said a moment ago, where things can explode in a good
Yeah.
way, or they can explode in a way that's like, yep, that was never meant to be. Like,
Yeah.
this is where my energetic barrier ends. And I
Yeah.
don't have to go past that. I don't have to convince you of anything
Mm-hmm.
that I share as my truth. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it
And
is.
and that is a hard boundary to put up with certain relationships.
It is. And I really think that that's rooted in validation.
Yeah.
The constant chasing after those that don't understand is in essence a need for validation, and
Mm-hmm.
underneath that is a need for connection. And that's
Yeah.
a primal thing. That's a
Mm-hmm.
thing that has kept us alive
Yeah.
and evolving for a
Yeah.
millennia or more, many millennia. And so when we see it at that level, we see that like, oh, I don't have to connect onto that. I can connect to other things. I can connect to myself, God forbid, and
Mm.
my truth. And so that's scary. Disconnection is terrifying
Yeah,
at
and
first.
I think it's even more terrifying when it's a parent relationship. Pardon me, I have a frog in my throat.
Mhm.
Or a grandparent relationship that
Absolutely.
that was key at one point in your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I teach in the inner child and the reparenting work is that mom is an extension of you,
Yeah,
and dad is an extension of the world. And so if mom is an extension of you and you have this energetic boundary that you've now set, you are forced to now learn what you are as an entity on your own.
yeah,
And that is quite jarring for people when they have referenced others, referenced their parents, referenced society in who they are.
yeah,
And that's where the reparenting work, that's the gold in the reparenting work, is like, I now get to be the parent for myself.
yeah, yeah. There's a whole lot of power in that too.
Yes. I actually posted on that on Instagram today, is and you have the choice. You always have the choice of allowing
Absolutely.
it to empower you
Mhm.
or to burden you.
Mhm.
And so the message that I shared today was, for moms that are overwhelmed and frustrated, you are the adult. You are no longer the helpless child. So you
Mhm.
can feel very empowered by the radical acceptance and the radical ownership of that you are an adult and you are frustrated and overwhelmed, or you can remain in collapse. And
Mm.
there's no judgment for where you're at, but there is a needed acknowledgement that there's a choice in that and that there's tools to climb out of the collapse.
Yeah. So what advice or tips would you give to a mama listening who is just beginning to break the wall down and let people in?
Yeah. So, I could go into my 5-step process and, how I guide women and all the things. And really, from my own experience, what moves the needle first and fastest is being able to eliminate the judgment and the shame.
Amen.
Like, there has been no greater changes in my life than my ability to cultivate my own self love. It sounds so cliche. It sounds so, like, it has been said so many times in so many iterations. But until you get that ability and learn, and maybe you have to watch it from others. Like, it's not something that you just think in your mind, like, oh, I think if I mix orange and yellow, or orange and yellow and red, it'll make orange. It's not something that just comes to you. It's something that you have to actively teach yourself. And so I
Mhm.
really feel like the moms that try to do it backwards, that try to learn the X's and O's, that try to overthink and overanalyze and stay in the cognitive state, like me early on, the self-love was slow to come.
Mhm.
And really, like, the true integration, the lasting transcendent change has come online and stayed with the cultivation of self-love. And so
Yeah.
again, there is no wrong way. I'm not going to judge whatever way you get to the finish line,
Mm.
but that is the cheat code, the hack, whatever you want to call it, is
Yeah.
cultivating self-love is going to get you so much faster where you want to be than just trying to still figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you try and embark on this journey and you don't like yourself, it's hard for you to let other people love you or
Mhm.
for you to love other people, like, really, truly, deeply.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean love as in the way I think it reverberates in my body is acceptance. So whether
Yes.
you are a mom strung out on heroin that your kids are living with a family member, I'm accepting that this is where I'm at. This is where I'm
Mhm.
at. I'm really broken right now.
Mhm.
I have hit rock bottom. Or it's someone that is just starting their journey but has stabilized, and they are flying off the handle on the daily at bedtime with their kids. The sooner that you can get to this acceptance of this is just where I'm at, which is a form of love.
Mm-hmm.
I love myself even in this mess.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it translates to all parts. Like, even as I am now, completely different than I was 5 years ago. I was doing a shadow work practice last night with a practitioner, and meeting myself in where I was at, needing validation, which is funny you brought that up, or wanting validation. Your whole energetic field shifts when you're just like, this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm at. Not, I did it again. I'm back to the old thing. Like, this is where I'm at. That's the love right there. It's not, I love myself, I love my hair, I love my clothes, I love my house, I love my, it's that is the superficial love. That's the
Yes.
love in the Hallmark cards. The love that I'm talking about is that you can look at yourself in all of your messiness and all of your shadow and all of your parts that you have to get fixed, like yesterday, and you still look in the mirror and say, yep, you get to be here.
Yep.
Those parts of you get to be here. That's what I would share with moms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you take it one step further, acceptance of where you're at and acknowledging that where you're at is not who you're at, who you are.
Mm-hmm. It's a part.
Yeah.
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 And I think that when you are able to anchor into this is just where I'm at, and this is just a part of me, it makes it so much easier to go back and separate, like, where did I learn that I couldn't accept myself? Where did I learn that this behavior was not okay? Where did I learn that doing this created disconnection? You get that because the anchor, you're not drowned by this and where you learned it when you're tethered to the anchor of this is just where I'm at. This is just where I'm at. And that's where I see women really be able to take on this work in a really beautiful way, is when they have the anchor to the thing that they're working through.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're able to look in the mirror and acknowledge where you're at and say, even though I have all of these messy bits, I still have worth. I still have value. I am still loved. I am still lovable. That is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a funny thing because my name, Amanda, actually means, in some language, lovable. And yet I had spent the better part of my 30 years on this earth before I found this work feeling exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
The exact opposite. And not because, like, my parents said that I was a piece of crap, like, it wasn't that. There was something deeper within myself that had not yet integrated in. And it ironically is part of my name. It is rooted in me. That was my time to heal that for myself, for my mom, for her mom, for our lineage. This isn't something that just this generation and you are struggling with.
No, it goes far beyond you.
Yeah.
Awesome. How can our listeners connect with you further if they wish to do so?
Yeah, so I am pretty active on Instagram. I would say it's my creative outlet. And I am the somatic DPT, which DPT stands for our credentials as physical therapists, doctors of physical therapy. So Instagram, my link tree is there, so you can find out more about me there. But yeah, feel free to reach out, DM. All of my contact information is through there. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. It was wonderful having you on the show today, Amanda. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to tune in to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. If you would like more of the Mamahood After Trauma community, make sure to look in the description of this episode for the link to become a Mamahood After Trauma Inner Circle member. Until next time, Mama, keep